Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce.
The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
People think that a locally owned and operated appliance store may not offer what they need. Actually, we have trained and dedicated sales associates, expert delivery and installation, professional repair service, and personal customer service. Plus, we have access to a huge local warehouse with over 6,000 models in stock. Crane Appliance. We call the Cape and Islands home. Carlson Printing for all your printing needs. 508-548-7303 or toll free at 1-800-696-7303. Our email address is carlsonprinting@aol.com. Carlson Printing for all your printing needs.
Hosting services for fctv.org are provided by MegaNet Communications. MegaNet offers a wide array of internet services including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server colocation, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their number one goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.net.
The Quarterdeck Restaurant, located on Main Street in the heart of Falmouth, specializing in fresh local seafood and other classic American cuisine, featuring a full bar with friendly staff. And the Bucatino Restaurant and Wine Bar, located in North Falmouth just off Nathan Ellis Highway, featuring catering services with 2 full event rooms serving up classic Italian cuisine. The Quarterdeck Restaurant and Bucatino Restaurant and Wine Bar, we're here to serve all our friends in Falmouth.
Question to the chair via the chat function. Submitted text comments will be read into the record at the appropriate point in the meeting. In the Zoom login instructions, you can go onto the town's website and look up Select Board and log in to the web address falmouthma.gov/BOS. Please plan on 10-15 minutes preparation. Well, too late for that. So additional public comments may be sent in advance of the meeting to selectboard@falmouthma.gov. Applicants and their representatives and individuals with enforcement matters before the board may appear remotely and are not required to physically be present. Applicants and their representatives and individuals with enforcement matters before the board may contact the town manager, select board's office to arrange an alternate means of real-time participation if unable to use the Zoom virtual meeting software. Documentary exhibits, and I don't know if I need to read all that, but
no, I don't think so.
Is there any other notifications that I need to read that is typical?
I think you've covered it.
Okay, good.
I think so.
Okay, so we'll call to order and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'll all join me.
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And for recognition tonight, Mr. Patterson had wanted to speak about something, but Mr. Jones, I think, asked first. So Mr. Jones, if you'd like to go first, that'd be fine.
It is with great sadness that I report the passing of Dick Kendall. He was a graduate of Lawrence High School, went on to Brown University, and enrolled in the Marines, where he served a tour of duty in Japan. Returning from Japan, he worked with his father at the Kendall Printing Company for many years, and then he was elected for a state representative for Falmouth in Massachusetts for 8 years, and was appointed by Michael Dukakis to be the commissioner of the Department of Environmental Management. Environment was something he cared deeply about, and one of the major things he did, and this mattered a great deal to him. And actually for 16 years, he was working with my mother. And one of the greatest tributes was the preserving of South Cape Beach to make sure that it always had public access and public use. He also worked for many years with the Falmouth Housing Corporation. He cared deeply about this town. He always had a kind word and a helping hand to anyone who needed it. He was the quintessential gentleman who cared so much about his community, about his family, about this town, and what he could do for it. And to his sons, John and Richard, all of our best. And Dick Kendall will be sorely, sorely missed by this town. And I guess if I could ask that we just have a moment of silence in his memory and in appreciation for everything he did for the town. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Doug.
Doug.
I would just like to recognize the efforts of our Washington Capitol police in particular. They had a really rough time. They were certainly not prepared and not backed up, but did a yeoman's job of bringing order back so that our Congress could continue to actually carry out the processes that are outlined in our Constitution. Pretty critical time, and many of them, one was killed. One of them later committed suicide, I think, because he was so upset at their inability to protect the process more effectively. And then many were injured. Looking at more and more of the video of what happened there, just it's startling, but they managed to hang on, and Congress was able to reconvene and carry out the certification process, the counting of the votes. And I'm just grateful for their heroic efforts and the sacrifice that they made for the country.
And thanks to the legislators for being brave enough to hang in there and go back in and do their work. So that was good too.
Hear, hear.
So thank you for both for that. And I'll second that comments about Mr. Kendall. What a nice gentleman he was. So, okay, back to our regular business announcements. Are there any announcements from the board or Mr. Suso?
No, Mr. Chairman, nothing on my.
I'll take a look and see if there's any public comment now. I don't see any public comment, only that one person was asked to identify themselves. So
Well,
I
we
see
do
no
have-
public.
Yeah, we do
Pardon
have
me?
precinct meetings and of course town meeting coming up. But we'll be talking about that later on in the agenda.
Right.
And
And
some
there's
people
also
don't.
there's also the Cape Cod Commission's Complete Streets presentation about implementation of the Complete Streets policy here in Falmouth, and that's on the Zoom. If you go on the Cape Cod Commission website, you can look up the Zoom meeting. It's going to be the same night as the precinct meeting, but it's an hour earlier. So if you need to catch both, you go on at 6 o'clock to the commission meeting and make your comments. And then if you want to get the precinct meeting, that starts at 7. And seeing no public comment, we'll move to the next item, which is application for change of manager and change of officers at the Cape Verdean Club, 126 Sandwich Road, East Falmouth.
Move approval, Patterson.
And is there a second?
Jones, second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I guess by roll call vote, Ms. Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Oh, excuse me. I see Larry B. here. Larry, are you here to comment on the Cape Verdean Club? You're muted, so. You gotta hit that little button. There you go.
I was asked to attend the Zoom. I'm actually going to be the bar manager at the Cape Verdean Club.
Okay, thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate it. I'm not sure if there are any questions, but are there any questions from the board about the new operation?
I guess it just as a step we always take is just to make sure you understand what your responsibilities are of manager, that anything that goes on there, particularly concerning liquor sales, you're going to be responsible for.
Yep.
Great.
Anything else from anyone else? Okay, simple matter. So then by roll call vote, Ms. Taylor,
Taylor, aye.
and Mr. Patterson,
Patterson, aye.
and Mr. Jones,
Jones, aye.
And Brown, aye. Thank you, Mr. Larry B., and good luck with the new club.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes. Okay.
Doug, you might want to make some comment about Megan not being able to make it tonight. That's all.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right.
Filling in.
Right. I'm filling in tonight because Megan's daughter has a cold and she's not feeling well, and she had to work all weekend, and she had a long day today from 7:30 till just before the meeting. And she said if I could handle the meeting, that would be nice. It's not a very big meeting, no hearings, nothing really too controversial. So I said, sure. And we wish her well and hope Simone's feeling better soon. Thank you, Sam. Administrative orders. Approve Eversource petition to install 1 3-inch conduit and 1 handhole on Bell Tower Lane, North Falmouth, Millfield Street. Proposed locations are required upgrade. Any comments or concerns from the board?
I received endorsement from our town engineer, so I think the technical issues have been addressed. So I would move approval.
Taylor, second.
Very well. And any other comments? If not, we'll take a vote. And all those in favor by roll call. Ms. Taylor?
Taylor, I.
Mr. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones?
Jones, aye.
And Brown, aye. Very well, that's approved. Next, approve Eversource petition to install 2 6-inch conduits and 1 4-inch by 6-inch by 6-inch manhole and 1 pad mount transformer at Carrot Shop Road north of Walkways Highway. The proposed location is required for system reliability. Looks pretty straightforward.
Patterson, aye. Move approval.
Very well. Is there a
Taylor,
second?
second.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments? If not, roll call vote. Ms. Taylor?
Taylor, I.
Mr. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones?
Jones, aye.
And Brown, aye. Thank you. Next is approve request for license for the portion of an existing stone wall located within the public right-of-way of Bell Tower Lane. And we did have the plans in our packet. Does anyone have any questions about that?
This is purely to repair an existing wall, as I understand it.
Some of it, I guess, is okay, but some of it needs to be rebuilt. Ms. Moynihan, are you here to comment on this?
Rebuilt or maintain is what I'm asking, not to actually add more wall.
Let's let Ms. Moynihan, Attorney Moynihan, comment on that if she's here for that.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. This application is to maintain a portion of existing wall in the public right-of-way. If you have the plan or have seen the plan, there's also a proposed extension of the wall into what is now the driveway opening, which is going to be relocated. So this is part of a project that's been approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. And the driveway entrance to Bell Tower Lane is being moved. And so there is a portion of new wall that's being proposed, Mr. Patterson.
Honestly, I couldn't read clearly the plan because it was blown up and it was a little hard to read.
Yeah, same here. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
So
on the plan, where the existing wall is shown within the layout of Bell Tower Lane, there is towards the left of the plan a location that shows the paved parking to be removed, and you can see in that area it's showing the extension of the wall to meet where the new driveway parking area is proposed. David Martin should also be on the Zoom, and he's the project engineer, and he could comment further if you'd like to bring him into the meeting.
Okay, let me take another quick look at that plan now that you've given me the overview.
Yeah, and I guess I have a question how high that wall is.
Okay.
Are there safety issues associated with people falling off of it? I mean, I can't tell what the elevations are, but here David's
it's-
coming on.
It's probably only about 20 inches, but I'll let Mr. Martin comment.
Good evening. Thank you. For the record, David Martin. The wall is approximately 2 feet tall.
Okay. So there's no concern about a railing unless you're at least 30 inches tall. And I think with the walls, it's more like 4 feet.
And it retains the private property as it separates it from the public layout.
And will they be filling in the area where the driveway is being abandoned?
Yes, exactly. We'll fill that in, restore it to its previous natural grade. Essentially, the driveway opening is being moved to the left. So it just, instead of leaving that section of the roadway sort of abandoned, we thought it would be attractive and appropriate just to continue the existing cut stone wall and make it uniform.
Yeah.
Well,
I can't see really where the wall placement will be indicated here. I see the line where the wall is to the right. And should we just assume that it continues in the same general direction?
Exactly right. Excuse me. It would just be an extension of what's there. We thought rather than jogging it back, which would look rather awkward, it would just be more attractive to be a continuation of what you see now.
And will it kind of straighten out and become parallel with the road at that point? Because it kind of is angling into the road now. And if we just let it continue that, it'll encroach even further on the roadway.
I think the goal is to migrate it towards the private property as much as is possible without it looking unusual.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. Any other questions from the board?
I would move that we approve this license.
I would second the motion.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion before we vote? Okay, very good. So by roll call, Ms. Taylor?
Taylor, I.
Mr. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones?
Jones, aye.
And Brown, aye. Very well. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much. Have a good evening.
Okay, good night.
Thank you.
Now we have a similar request for license for the existing stone retaining wall located within the public right-of-way of Clapp Road. And let's see.
Mr. Chairman, could I just interject?
Yes, please.
The wall itself, as I understand it, is, as you noted in your introduction, on the right of way for Clapp Road. However, the address of the property is on the from the adjacent street to the it's a corner lot, so it's actually 20 Brooks Road. So it's maybe a little confusing to a casual reader, but the actual encroachment and the license is on Clapp Road.
I see. Okay. And is there anyone here representing the applicant for this?
Apparently
It's
not.
like Attorney Moynihan.
Yes.
Thought I saw her on there as well.
Yeah, there she is. She's back.
Attorney Moynihan, could you just give us a little quick overview on this one, please?
Yes, this again is another project that was recently approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals to make some renovations to the house. As part of that zoning process now, the engineering department is requesting prior to issuance of building permits that any items in the town road layout be licensed. So that's why you're seeing me twice tonight.
Right.
But you'll see on the plan to the north of the house, within the layout of Clapp Road, there are some relatively minor extensions of the existing wall. They sort of look like curved or hooked pieces of the wall. So they happen to fall within the town's road layout. So the engineering department's requested the license, and that's why we're here asking for approval for the revocable license.
And did we get a positive referral from the engineering department otherwise if we give the license?
We just have no objection according to engineering.
Engineering has no objection. Okay, from Diane.
And again, these are existing stone walls.
Right.
We expect to have been there for many, many years. So
I'd like to ask a question if I could.
Yes, sir.
If we decide to put a sidewalk along Clap Road, is there going to be enough room for it? Or would they have to pull that wall back some?
Isn't there pavement there already?
there's the road is, I believe, is paved, but the license is revocable. And so if the town decided to do something there and those portions of the wall interfered with that, then it would be completely within the town's right under the license to require the property owner to make changes or whatever modifications are needed. It's a revocable license. So really these licenses are just formalities in terms of documenting what the ongoing situation is. You know, the town, it's the town's right of way. So the town has the right to say to the property owner, take it out or do something different. So we're just memorializing it really with these documents.
Is Clap Road a town road?
Pardon me?
Is Clap Road a town road or a private road?
I believe it's a public way. Yes, it is a public way, of course. That's why we're here for the license.
Right.
So, yeah, otherwise the license wouldn't be needed.
Well, thanks for clarifying that revocable aspect of this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions?
I move that we approve this license.
Okay,
Taylor, second.
very well. And motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? Any more discussion? If not, we'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Taylor?
Taylor, I.
Mr. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones?
Jones, aye.
And Brown, aye. Very well. Thank you, Ms. Moynihan. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you all. Stay well.
You too.
You as well.
Thank you.
Next is vote to approve certification of estimated summer resident population as of July 10th, 2021. And someone joining us for this one?
Mr. Chairman, I don't, this comes from Clerk Michael Palmer, who is with us as an attendee. We could have Michael be elevated to join us and make any comments. I know this is an annual process that the clerk goes through on summer seasonal population.
Okay.
I do have a question on how you make such an estimate. I've always been curious. I know this is not the first year. We've been doing this for many years.
Yeah, if Michael could be elevated to join us, that would be, IT can do that for us. Yep, there you go.
Evening, Michael.
Hi, how you doing? I did, somebody asked me for this number, so I don't have the exact number on top of my head. Diane, I believe, asked for a form to be filled out. I don't know if you have it there in your packet, but
Yes.
to answer Sam's question, it really is an estimate. And just from, I guess, my years of living here, I tend to think that population triples during the summer. Probably this summer, depending on the state of the pandemic, I'm not sure it'll go that high. So I was relatively conservative in my estimate, but that's my ballpark figure that you go 3 times the year-round residents make the summer residents.
I move we accept the estimated population of 88,788 as submitted by our town clerk.
Patterson, second. Can I ask one more question?
Yep.
What does this influence in terms of any benefit or handicap to the town?
I think it has to do with the ABCP.
Oh, sorry.
I think it has to do with how many liquor licenses we are allowed to have.
Is that okay?
Right.
Thank you.
That's why we have so many with the summer tourists, right?
That allows us to have more.
I guess I'm responsible for that then. I'm gonna
Yeah.
increase my estimate to 4 times a year round.
I think we got enough.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, we do.
Okay, well, thank you for attending. Appreciate it.
All right.
We have a motion and a second, I believe.
Yes.
And so all those in favor, Ms. Taylor, excuse me. You guys have moved on the screens.
I got kicked out briefly, but I'm back. Taylor, I.
Mr. Patterson,
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones,
Jones, aye.
Brown, aye. Okay, 88,788 summer visitors. Now the next is vote to accept donation of fill material and labor from Cape Cod Aggregates to complete repairs to town-owned dirt roadway through the Matsuza Conservation Area. And I think Mark Casper is here. Good evening, Mr. Casper.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Yeah, as you might recall, last spring, Cape Cod Aggregate donated material, recycled concrete, so we could fix the road at Matsuza. And George Botello donated his services for spreading material, compacting the roadway, and creating swales. That was very successful. We thanked them for it. And with all that work they did, they were short 500 feet. So now they're coming back saying they'd like to finish that off for us. So, you know, in the line, it says it's a donation of material by Cape Cod Aggregate again, which would be, in this case, 80 tons at a cost of $1,360. And then the labor again will be by George Botello Incorporated, you know, who will spread the material out, you know, compact it, create swales that cost of $1,400. And, you know, DPW will bring they have agreed to bring the material over just like last time. So.
I move we accept this gift and with gratitude to the LaRusso family.
And the Botello family, thank you.
And the Botello family, yes.
Taylor, second.
All those in favor, Ms. Taylor,
Taylor, I.
Mr. Patterson,
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones,
Jones, aye.
and Brown, aye. Thank you so much, Mr. Casper, and to all who donated. That's very nice. Certainly appreciate it.
Here,
What a
here.
great job they did. I saw those pictures and I was very impressed by the change.
Yep.
Yeah, you should check it out sometime. It's gorgeous. There's so many people that walk down there now. It's incredible.
Right, now that they can.
Yeah, now that you have to wear boots that will go through the puddles.
Right, well, thank you. That was
All right,
great.
thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
And next we have vote to recommend an application for community preservation funds for the Gov Fuller Field improvements to supplement amount previously approved by town meeting. And I believe we're going to hear from Joe Olenek, Recreation Director.
Can't see me yet?
We hear you.
There you go.
Hey,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Chair.
Olenek, how are you?
Recreation Department and the Commodores would like to seek your approval to hopefully apply for a third, and hopefully final CPC application for the renovations of Gov Fuller Field. Due to the fact that we had just had it out to bid within the last month, and all 3 bids came over the amount of money that we had from CPC to do the project. The lowest bid was $10,000 over, not including installation of the new bleachers. So we were pretty well short of what we needed. So we're asking CPC, and also Bob Curtis is with me too. He has a lot of information from the Commodores if he's allowed to join in. But we're seeking $320,045 to complete the project, which would be more than what we actually need, but give a sufficient amount in case the bids come in higher again. So we really want to try to get this project done, as the only part of it that's completed at the moment is the lift in the press box that was done initially right off the bat.
So can you review how much has been asked for, how much has been spent, and what the project was intending to do? Seems like
so
a
far,
lot of money we're doing.
So far, we have spent $120,622. of the first grant of 477. And I believe the issues came about in the initial bid package. We were trying to bid everything out separately. And in the end, when Jim McLaughlin called, a lot of the contractors that were going to bid but didn't bid, they were concerned that if they were doing one aspect of it, that the previous contractor wasn't going to finish the project the way they needed it to be done to connect the aspects together. So nobody bid. So we went back to the drawing board with recommendations from Jim and Jennifer Mullen to bring in CDM Smith Engineering to try to pull the whole project together at a cost of $85,000 for them. And with the hard work by them and Bob Curtis, who's with us today, we put out another set of bids with Jim McLaughlin, and all those bids came in high. Exactly why, we're not quite sure, whether it was COVID, whether the cost of materials have gone up over the year and a half that this has been going on. So if you have any financial questions, Bob is on top of that. But right now, we'd like to get the whole project done. That includes the bleachers, which cost roughly an average of $85,000 per bid group.
So Joe, what you're saying is that the first contract was about 450,000. Then what was the second request for?
The second request was for $298,291.
And now an additional 350,000?
314.
314?
320.
Is the CPC the only funding source for this project?
Right now, the Commodores are offering $6,000.
6,000 out of $1 million.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Can I make a comment? Yeah, I want to say that because I'm the liaison to the Conservation Committee, excuse me, I have to go well, that too, but the CPC, I've seen this project brought before the committee on numerous occasions. And I want to just say that I think there's some fault for the town staff, because this project should have been more thoroughly vetted up front to anticipate all aspects of this. And I think this goes to what Doug Jones is asking. It just seems like it's one thing after another. But what was clear to me was there wasn't good project management built into the costs. And I'm just glad to see that CDM Smith has been brought into the project, because they're the ones that led the effort to put the artificial turf field up at the high school. And they did a great job. I want to say one more thing, that the building committee, which was not required for that effort for the artificial turf field, lent a lot of guidance, which helped avoid some of the things that we're seeing on this project. So I think our town committees, where you're bringing in builders, and we had Bob Antonucci, a previous superintendent, that are used to the whole contracting process. That guidance was really important to make sure that project was scoped out completely, and that some of the problems along the way were anticipated. And there were problems. There was a contingency budget. The project came in within the budget. And I just want to say that project management function is critical. And I think it's up to the town staff to do the proper vetting to make sure that we're not seeing these kinds of things come in one after another. CPC is not in a good position to really kind of figure out what's covered and what's not covered.
And is this cost including the new building that the Commodores want?
No. This doesn't concern the food and beverage area, no.
Mr. Sousa, did you have something to add?
Yes, I was going to ask if we could bring in Jennifer Mullen as well. Jennifer's an attendee, if we can bring her in as a panelist.
Certainly.
She could provide some additional comments on the financial aspects that I think would be helpful to the
Thank
board.
Good evening,
Hello.
everyone. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Let me just address this project. I've been involved with it from the beginning. It was originally funded with CPC funds, and the Commodores were putting the bid package together, and the way the bid package was put together wasn't really correct. So there was probably like a good year before for town staff actually had to jump in and take over this project. And when we did, that's when we recommended CDM Smith. And there's different parts of this project that have been problematic. One of them is that we believe there's an electrical line out in front of the dugout That's going to be an issue when we bid it. The other issue is you making the dugout handicapped accessible. And this project started really for safety reasons through the Commodores because they wanted to put some netting and some backstops in there. So I just wanted to jump in and say that, you know, it took about a year before staff could really take over the bidding part of it. And once we did, it moved forward pretty smoothly. So when we brought in CDM, before CDM Smith, the Commodores had engaged an engineer to actually draw the design for the dugout. And because that's a separate architect with a separate, they stamp it themselves, CDM Smith we have some liability there when they put out the bid package because they actually didn't do the design for the dugout. So that was another problem that happened with this project. We were able with CDM Smith to put this out to bid. The issue is that it came in over what our estimated cost was. This is solely being funded from CPC, and they've been back a couple times. And and so they've decided to go back to CPC for additional funds. My suggestion when the bid package came in over what we had allotted is we really need to have a good contingency in there, because when we start doing site work, we probably are going to run into problems. So I wanted more than about a 10% contingency in there. That's probably why they need I think an extra 100,000. My other suggestion to the committee, to the Commodores, is to put the bid package out again without the dugout. If they do it without the dugout and really want to address the safety issues with the netting and then do the backstop, we'll have we'll have enough money. But the issue really is the dugout, because they're making the dugout handicapped accessible. And that's why they need the additional funds.
But don't they still have the $200,000 for the first contract?
They do. CDM, I don't have the amounts that are left over in front of me, but the issue is when they engaged the contract with CDM Smith, it was rather expensive, more so when they were trying to get a lot of in-kind services to get this job done, if you will. They were, they do have what's left over. Really what we've been paying, and I can be corrected, it was the contract for CDM Smith, and that was probably around $80,000, right, Joe?
85.
Yeah. And they were hoping before that again, they had a design for the dugout, but they really need, there were a few issues that really needed to be addressed with one architect or engineer.
I have a question, if I could. Why does a dugout have to be handicap accessible? Are the ball players handicapped?
It's a question that I have, that I think the Commodores are putting that forward. I think if you redo the dugout, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, if you reconstruct the dugout, then it has to be handicapped accessible, but I don't think it has to be handicapped accessible now. But that's where the cost is going to come in, especially if they feel that there's some electrical lines, in front of it when they do the digging. But somebody can correct me on that.
So you must have to create a long ramp to get in it rather than a couple of steps.
Yeah.
Well, I think initially they were going to put a lift, and then they were going to try to make it flat, even with the ground. But what the final decision came out to be, not quite sure.
Well, I think we've been kind of excluding people with disabilities for a long time when we design things.
Right.
And now we're going back to fix it. But I think we just have to have that up front from the beginning. I mean, the lift in the concession building there, that was designed in, but was not within the scope of the money that was available. And they carved that out of a subsequent CPC funding, which kind of bothers me, because we should have seen the whole scope laid out and gotten a cost that really broke down everything. And that was my point about not having good project management.
Well, I just want to
jump in. There are safety issues as well as ADA compatibility. So this isn't just, we can go out and ask for, pro bono bid, contributions. This is a public space with a lot of people coming and going. So there's a public safety issue here.
Well, okay, I don't know. Can I?
Certainly, please.
So let me just give a little bit more, flesh out the history there. I think the Commodores, working with the Department of Recreation initially, very naively, quite frankly, thought we could do this a lot with pro bono contributions, including the architectural design of the dugout, which is about a $40,000 contribution by a local architect. It is not a trivial contribution. And the dugouts are in disrepair, they're crumbling. And it's also a safety issue. And and yes, whenever you reconstruct anything, and I'll point you back to a 2015 report commissioned by the town to an outside consulting group. Gov Fuller Field was rated the #1 field out of 53 in the town, 52, that was in disrepair and needed immediate attention. And that's 5 years ago, 6 years ago now. And so the Commodores took this on, and again, I agree, it's naive, that we were going to be able to do this with minimal funding and a lot of pro bono. And Jennifer's absolutely right, is that when the bids didn't come back, we totally had to reassess the project. And we brought, and Jennifer's recommendation and the towns, it made sense to bring in CDM Smith. And they came in and they were asked, as part of their $85,000 fee, was to validate all the plans, validate all the drawings, and validate, most importantly, the budget. So we went back to the CPC in the fall of 2020 for approval for these additional funds that would allow us to complete based on the budget that CDM Smith put forward. This was issued as a bid in December of last year, November, and was opened on December 7th. And we were short significant amount of funds for just doing everything except the bleachers. The bleachers are in disrepair, I might add also. There's a significant safety risk there. They're rotting away. They're just corroding away. And so when you look at what we were short, we were actually, quite frankly, short, if you include the bleachers, about $150,000. Now, what we're proposing to the CPC is, because and this is a very quickly put together proposal, and I cleared this with CDM Smith on Friday of last week, is we actually got 3 bids. So we thought the best way to approach this was to take the average of the 3 bids that we did receive. These are hard numbers from contractors that were ready to do the work. We took the average of those 3 bids. We added in a contingency fee, as Jennifer says is necessary, and we certainly believe that. And there was some incidental expenses for CDM and an architect that were not realized before, and a 5% inflator. I think what we're trying to do is and the total comes out to just over $1 million if you include the new bleachers. And I want to clarify, the Cape Cod Baseball League contributed $13,000. On this round, the Commodores are putting in $6,000 if it gets funded. And we can talk about that at CPC. So the question is, it comes down to, CDM Smith also agreed it should come in just over $1 million, and there should be sufficient funds to complete this. And we probably don't need them all, but we don't know. And this project's been dragging on, as Sam Patterson has said, for many years now. And the liability is just huge. Gov Fuller Field is the only field in the Cape Cod Baseball League that by June will not have safety netting. And I think, and so I think there's a huge liability for the town, as well as you don't even want to go into the bleachers and literally crumbling dugouts. And the way that the field has been designed with CDM Smith, the dugouts actually serve as a secure base for the netting. So that it's kind of a whole package. And the only thing you could carve off is the bleachers, is the visitor bleachers. And that could be put off to a later date. But it's again, it's a liability issue, and they're going to have to be done sooner or later.
Well, my hat's off to the Commodores for basically, bringing all this to our attention. So my criticism is not with the Commodores. It's just the lack of a comprehensive look at the overall project and what should be done, and looking at it from the beginning and building in the contract management, the project management functions. You just can't just throw something like this out there and get volunteers to do pieces like this. It's too much of a public, safety issue to begin with. Right. I think it's a critical asset for the town. So don't get me wrong. I'm in favor of investing the money to bring this facility up to a much, better state of health, if you will. My criticism is that the process by which this has happened. But it's water over the dam. But I just
Right.
wanted to say, for future benefits, we
Right.
need to bring in the right staff of the town to do a better job of scoping the overall project, looking at things that might have been left out that the Commodores were surfacing, again, for the sake of the town. It's our property.
Yep. Sam, can I just address that real quick? Is that this was started as an application from the Commodores. It wasn't an application from the town. The town was
I
brought
know.
into it after the fact, and that's when we really did bring it all together. I just want to mention that.
Yeah, but this has been going on for 2 to 3 years.
Oh, 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years.
But it wasn't town
That's
staff
my
that,
criticism.
it wasn't town staff that held it up. I just need to be clear about that.
No,
We've
I
all
didn't say you
worked
held it
very,
up.
very hard on this.
No, nobody held it.
It's taking the responsibility. That's
Right.
where I'm criticizing the town staff.
We are
I-
taking the responsibility. Thank you.
And I think everybody has learned a lot with this project, CPC included, in that it really did require a lot of input from DPW, which was not originally envisioned. And Jennifer's absolutely right. There needs to be more professional management brought in either internally or externally to help with these projects. I can tell you, we've learned a lot as the Commodores. I think CPC has learned a lot in terms of how they fund projects and how they manage them going forward. But I agree with Jennifer, if anything, has been an expediter. So I think, we appreciate all the support.
With this amount of money, does it make any sense for the DPW to take this on instead of getting contractors that are charging 3 times what the original job was going to be? And the original request for CPC was around $300,000, and now we're up to $1 million. And should this be a town project, not a private organization taking it on?
Can I answer that question? I think it's just
Please.
really a lot for DPW to take on. I think I'd have Peter McConerty address it. We've been working closely with Jim McLaughlin, the town engineer. And he thinks, in his predictions have, come true. There are site issues over there, especially with some electrical lines that we think we're going to find, when we dig up. I bring me Peter McConerty in, but I don't know if it's something that the DPW could really take charge of.
It's a
Not
pretty,
myself.
it's a pretty unique type of job. Mr. Suso, comment on that?
Yeah, just a couple things. One, certainly Public Works is eminently capable. Were we to assign this project to them, however, we need to set aside a couple other projects where we have some expectations on, so we just need to recognize it's a matter of priority. So to make this change at this point, we would need to reprioritize some other projects that they're working on and need to deliver in the current year, which is certainly doable, but we need to be reasonable in terms of that approach. And one other thing, Mr. Chairman, want to note that we do have a couple of public hearings that were scheduled to begin, and I don't think perhaps you want to consider taking a break and getting those in and coming back. This discussion needs some additional time.
That's a very good point. Those were scheduled for 7:30. Well, should we table this for now and we'll come back to it as soon as we finish with the public hearings then?
I would move that we recommend that the CPC fund this, and that would be a recommendation at town meeting as well.
Okay. Any other comments?
Mr. Suso, on the timing though, with the CPC project, this can't get started until after the April town meeting, right?
Correct.
Because this would have to go to the CPC and then go to the April town meeting, which is not going to be enough time for them to do it for this year's baseball season anyway.
Right.
So it's not going to be this calendar year or this spring that this is going to be happening. No matter whether it was DPW did it or this other organization did it, it won't be happening until the fall.
That's my understanding as well, yes.
Well, we can send it to CPC and see how they feel about it. They're the ones administering the money.
Well, no, it's the town that's administering the money. So if we think we can do it in-house, we should be stepping up and figuring out how to do it. But the timing is such that if you're not going to start it for another year, that's another picture. But some things need to get done sooner because they're safety issues. And I don't think we should kick this can down the road much longer. Nobody has seconded my motion, by the way, Doug, just for point of order.
Right. Is there a second to Mr. Patterson's motion to fund the additional, what's the actual request? 300 and, is it 3 or 200,000?
This is a vote just to recommend an application. It's not actually a vote to support the application, right? We would be voting that later on when it became a town meeting article.
Okay, right.
I believe that's the logistics of this.
You need to authorize the application to be filed.
Right.
I see. Okay.
And that's my motion.
Did anybody want to second that?
I'll second it just for purposes of discussion.
Okay. Is there further discussion then?
Well, just only that there's safety issues here. And like I said, I don't think we should be kicking the can down there. I'm not happy about the circumstances, but it's just because we weren't given a comprehensive picture 3 years ago and better able to at least try to budget when the money's going to be spent, for one thing.
I don't think we have a comprehensive picture either. We have this other building, the refreshment building that they want to build there, which is not part of this plan. So we don't have a comprehensive building of what they want to do there.
But that's a nice to have. What's being proposed to us now is kind of critical for basically much of it for safety of the people that come and participate in the activities. So I don't see the two as related.
And it certainly is a community effort. It's community preservation is meant to preserve our community. And if baseball playing in the middle of summer is not a community effort, then I don't know what else is. So
you have a lot of youth leagues, and the high school uses this field. So it is a pretty widely used recreational facility.
I don't believe the youth leagues use it, do they? I know the high school does, but during the summer, I think it's reserved for the Commodores.
No, it was used a lot this past year with the Commodores not playing. It'll certainly be less used when the Commodores are playing, but
I know they run clinics there, but I
don't
don't
get
think
some use during their season as well now.
it doesn't. Okay,
We
good.
don't restrict it as much as we used to.
Great.
Okay, well, so we have a second, and is there any more discussion before we vote? Seeing none, I will call the vote by roll call. Ms. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye, and leave it up to the CPC to vote on it.
Yes, sir. And Brown, aye. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. Appreciate it.
Guys,
And
thank you
Ms.
very
Mullin,
much. We'll
thank
make it work. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So to our hearings that we've been keeping waiting, application for transfer of wine and malt package store license, MA Friends Incorporated, DBA Jack and the Beanstalk, 800 Gifford Street Extension, Falmouth. And Mr. Leppertz, are you here to represent the applicant?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just came on the screen. I don't know whether the proposed manager, Sarah Patel, is on or not. I don't know. I can't see him. I don't know if you can.
Yes, sir, he is.
Okay. Okay, very good. All right. So I think we have all the players here. Yeah. Good evening. I'm here for a beer and
Excuse
wine.
me, sorry to interrupt, but Doug, do we need to read notice of hearing for this?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones. Notice is hereby given under, this is a liquor license hearing. Notice is hereby given under the chapter 138 of the general laws as amended that MA Friends Incorporated, DBA Jack and the Beanstalk, has applied for a transfer of wine and malt package store license located at 800 Gifford Street Extension, Falmouth, Mass. A hearing will be held in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall on Monday, January 11th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. The above application.
Great.
And
Thank you.
publication date was Friday, December 25th, 2020, Falmouth Enterprise. Thank you, gentlemen. Please continue.
Good evening, Attorney Christopher Lebher is down here at 99 Town Hall Square, representing your applicant tonight, MA Friends, Inc. I'm also sitting here in my office with the current license holder from Falmouth Fruit and Produce, Robert Burke, who, if there were any questions at all, would certainly, I'm sure, be happy to join the conversation. This particular property is over on Gifford Street Extension, number 800. It's had a beer and wine license for a good number of years now. And the owner, Mr. Burke, is hoping to sell the property and move on with his life. He's been a very, very well-known figure here in town, a very, very hard worker. And I'd like to say while he's here with me tonight, he's earned it. He did come to terms with my client, Sarav Patel. Sarav Patel is also known affectionately as Akku here in town. He owns the 7-Eleven downtown, and I suspect he's probably fairly well known to most of you on the board. The application is to transfer that license here tonight. I will tell you that the transaction is more than a business transaction. There is a real estate transaction as well, and a lease to this particular applicant, MA Friends Inc. And we have supplied, I believe, all of the appropriate paperwork in the file, the purchase and sale agreement, the lease, and all of the relevant documentation. But the main inquiry tonight is really, in any transfer of a license, the character and fitness of the transferee. So for obvious reasons, I asked Mr. Patel to join the Zoom hearing here tonight, because I figured there may be some questions asked of him. He is a longtime Falmouth resident at this point in time, not born in Falmouth by any means, born in India. However, he has been a very well-known and established businessman here in town, and he is seeking, and it's still at a fairly young age, to enhance his business interests and broaden his horizons and acquire this very well-known and established business called Jack and the Beanstalk that's been in the Burke family for heavens, it's got to be 30 or 40 years now. So he's prepared to answer any questions that you may have. He's gone through the TIP certification process. He is well aware of what needs to be done to be a suitable transferee. He plans on being he will be the manager, and he plans on spending nearly all of his time at this particular location. So with that, I would turn it over to Mr. Patel, unless you have any particular questions of me or of him. And
Patterson?
Yes, I see Mr. Patterson.
Yes,
Yes.
Mr. Libhertz, are you familiar with the concerns that have been raised by our town council?
I am not aware of any concerns raised by town council.
Well, if I can read his concerns, this application his concern is that the landlord M&A Realty is a related corporate entity to MZ Enterprises. The select board could request further information regarding the officers, directors, stockholders of M&A Realty to conclusively determine the relationship between M&A Realty and MZ Enterprises, and thus the full scope of the relationships between MA Friends and MZ Enterprises. There is a legal question about whether this organization can have two licenses in the same town.
I was not aware of that concern. I would be happy to, well, I'm not going to be able to do it at this moment, but I'd be happy to dig up the corporate records, either with the Secretary of State or wherever need be, to supply the board. I could probably have it done tomorrow and bring those records over if need be. But we certainly don't want to infringe or violate any regulations. We don't plan to.
So you're saying there's no connection between MZ Enterprises and MA Friends?
I don't want to misspeak. I am not completely aware of that at the moment. I wasn't anticipating this coming up tonight. I do not, bear with me one moment. I may be able to come up with it. Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I feel like this is a complicated matter, legal matter that needs to get resolved by consultation between our town council and Attorney Lebhertz, and then brought back to us.
I would agree.
I don't feel qualified to kind of go through this and figure out where the solid ground is, if there is any solid ground. So I would just suggest that rather than consume other people's time, that we consider having Mr. Lebhertz contact our town council and see if we can't work out these issues and get some clarification.
Would that
Would it
be?
be, I think it's as quick as me just going online and digging up what it is you might be looking for. I thought I had it. I know that the M&A paperwork was not in the file because they were not the applicant. However, we did, so that's why we didn't include any of it, the M&A. It's an LLC, by the way, any of their records. But I think I might be able to dig it up. If could we return to this hearing in say 15 minutes or so?
I would concur with Mr. Patterson. I'd rather have our attorney, the town attorney, be taking a look at the documentation.
Well, if we were to do that, could we get on the next possible agenda? And I only ask that because we were unable to make it for the last meeting, and there is a transaction pending. And of course, I'm sure you can appreciate, what these delays mean in these transactions. Would we be able to get on an agenda, a week from tonight?
And when do we have our next meeting, Mr. Sousa?
Not to February.
I'm sorry, you're muted, sir.
Sorry, Monday, February 1 is your next regular business meeting because of course you have a town meeting on the 25th and a holiday a week from tonight, Martin Luther King Jr. holiday.
Right. Will that work with your schedule, Mr. Attorney Lebhertz?
I want the earliest possible date, but I feel strongly that within about another 5 minutes or so, I could get you the information that you're looking for. If there was any way to still deal with this tonight.
The only problem with that approach is we have two board members who aren't comfortable. They'd like to have your presentation to our town attorney, and I'm sorry that you weren't not aware of this, but it is in the board packet.
Okay, did that just come over today? Because like I said,
No, this was in the packet that came to us on Friday.
Yes, it wasn't brought to my attention.
And the letter was from the town council on December 2nd.
Yeah, it's been. Sorry that you weren't alerted to this, but we obviously have to take our town council's advice seriously. And if there's questions that can be worked out, great.
The highlighted questions are: no person, firm, corporation, association, or other combination of persons, directly or indirectly, or through any agent, employee, stockholder, officer, or other person of any subsidiary whatsoever, shall be granted in the aggregate more than 9 such licenses in the Commonwealth, or participate in decisions regarding the purchasing of alcoholic beverages or the purchasing of insurance. It's a long thing, but it does come
I understand where you're going with that.
Okay.
All right, I'll dig up the relevant information and I'll get it over. I'll get it to town council and I'll get it to your office tomorrow morning.
So we need to see if there's absolutely no connection between MZ Enterprises and MA
Well,
Friends.
again, I don't want to be held to, I said this or I said that, Mr. Patterson. I'm not 100% sure the answer to the question. I'm hearing it for the first time tonight. But I will double check it.
Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And sorry that Mr. Patel, you get caught here in this situation, but we have to follow the law. And
I understand that.
Thank you.
Well, apologies.
I move we continue this hearing until February 1st at 7:30 p.m.
Patterson, second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, Ms. Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Mr. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones?
Jones, aye.
And Brown, aye. Apologies gentlemen, for your inconvenience. But
All right, thank you. Okay.
okay, thank you. Next, we have an application for alteration of licensed premises of a wine and malt common victualler license, Seafood Sam's, 356 Palmer Avenue, Falmouth. And I see Mr. Lewis is coming in.
If you want to read the chapter and the notice as well, Mr. Chairman, or maybe you got that, chapter 138?
Yes, sir. Liquor license hearing. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that Seafood Sam's Falmouth Incorporated, DBA Seafood Sam's, has applied for alteration of premises of a wine and malt common victualler license located at 356 Palmer Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. A hearing will be held in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall on Monday, January 11th, 2021 at 7:30 PM on the above application. And the publication date was Friday, December 25th, 2020 in the Falmouth Enterprise. Welcome, Mr. Lewis.
Welcome. Good. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So, gonna try to get your paperwork in order for another good season, huh?
Yes, sir. We hope so.
Okay, good. And are you gonna tell us what your plans are? Is anybody joining you?
Nope, I'm on my own.
Okay,
It was brought to my attention during the COVID outside seating situation and to request the outside seating that back in 2002, when I put the addition on, closing the existing deck on the front of Seafood Sam's and put the picnic tables out on the right side of the building, that I thought everything was in order, and I've been operating in such a style since 2002. Went to zoning and all that back then, but when we were doing the license for temporary seating for the COVID, it came to my attention that the patio portion never got finalized through the ABC back in 2002. Thank God you folks gave me the temporary to keep going through the season and suggested that once the fall came, fill out the proper paperwork and try and get it to the legal status. And that's basically why I'm here. No changes, no nothing. In fairness or unfairness, I've been operating the exact same since 2002 and don't plan on changing anything. I just want to make that little portion, bring it up to par, I guess.
okay. So I'm pretty familiar with it. Mr. Patterson, question?
Yeah, is Mr. Lewis, is the fence new?
The fence has been there since 2000. On the front of the patio has been there the whole time.
Around the perimeter of the patio, yeah. Okay.
And any other questions about how it operates or what would be approved?
Well, I think the handling of the alcoholic beverages, the serving of them, I think we clarified that. And I assume that you'll operate accordingly from here on out.
100%.
And there hasn't been any problems since 2002?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, does anybody have any questions, or is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
You need to close the hearing.
Oh, excuse me, move to
Sorry.
close the hearing. Thank you.
It's a rookie. Okay. We're ready to close the hearing. Is there a motion to close the hearing?
I guess we need to see if there's public comment.
All right, thank you. I don't see anything in the chat.
Now second the hearing to close. Second the motion to close the hearing.
Okay. All those in favor, Ms. Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Mr. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones?
Jones, aye.
And Brown, aye. And now, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Jones, second.
All those in favor, Ms. Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Mr. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones?
Jones, aye.
And Brown, aye. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Appreciate you coming in and getting organized.
I thank you all very, very much. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Same
Looking
to
forward
you.
to another better season.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, next on our business discussion update on COVID-19 issues. And I'm sure Mr. McGann is here to speak to us. Good evening,
Hi.
Scott. How
And
are
hopefully
you?
one day we'll be behind us and I won't have to come on and give you a COVID-19 update, huh?
Someday soon, I hope.
I hope so too.
I think it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, Mr. Pat.
Well, give us some good news. One of these
Okay.
vaccinations is going to be available to sign
I'm
up.
coming to your house tonight. I'm just kidding. I'm not doing that. Sorry. I'm
All
gonna share
right.
screen. I'm gonna share screen if that's okay with everybody.
Yes, please.
Everybody see it okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So our current case count is 809, and we've had a lot of cases, and we've blown through 600 and 700 relatively quick. Not any different from what's happening elsewhere. The past 2 weeks, this is from Friday's presentation. I put the star in to show what's happening this week. So you can see that we did come back down into the 40, right around 50-ish range for cases. And then this weekend we've had quite a bit more. So this data is pulled on Thursday nights, so I could have it ready for Friday. So we're about halfway through the week, and so we see a little bit of an increase over the previous 2 weeks. And so where the cases are coming from, there's an element of congregate care, whether it be assisted living, long term, or otherwise. There's been some cases in with that. Most of it's been sort of smallish things that have been resulting from Christmas, getting together with relatives and things of that nature. For the most part, they've, one case might be 3 or 4 in a particular household. Maybe it's only 2. So it doesn't necessarily take a lot of households to get to that point. If you average 2 in a household, you're at 50. So we had 25 households in that particular week. But so it's nothing in particular that tells me it's exactly where it's all coming from. It's all sort of just coming from everywhere. As far as as far as our color, remember yellow would be a greater than 43 cases or 5% positivity. If you have both positivity and greater than 43, we'd be red. So currently Falmouth remained yellow. This is data that the state pulls for us. It's between December 20th and the 2nd. So it encompasses some of the holidays. You can see that we're getting close. We stayed right around 4.2% for 2 consecutive weeks. The number of cases went down, but so did the number of testing. If you can see that 1231 and 17 show 3,500 on average, 3,000 to 3,500. So about 1,700 tests per week, which is lower than what we've had before. But you're also lost a couple of days. You lost Christmas and you lost New Year, so it goes to show that you'd have a little less tests. And I hope we go back up to the more robust 2,000 plus tests per week, and that does help us with our percent positivity. If you look at the county, we're doing better than the county. The county's positivity is now up to 6.29. So a full 2 percentage points higher. The state is definitely not doing well. The vast majority of towns are red. Their percent positivity has been hanging between 7 and 8%. Looking here, this is all the towns in Barnstable County. You can see that there's a sea of red. We've been able to hold yellow, but you can see that red is the predominant color in most towns right now. We're still holding our own. I just hope we continue to hold our own. And so, that's the town, Barnstable and everybody, just a lot of cases, probably even exceeding what we had earlier on in the pandemic when we didn't have tests. We might even, be at that kind of high level. So in terms of hospitalizations, because that's a very important indicator in terms of the disease, 10 cases this is the last data I have is the 9th, showed 10 cases at Falmouth Hospital with 5 in the ICU, 20 cases and 11 at Cape Cod Hospital, which is similar to what we saw in April. So hospitalizations is a good indicator because hospitalizations are a known number. So to say we're probably right around that same as we were in the sort of the April timeframe is definitely accurate in terms of the true burden of the disease in this area. So that's, I want to talk about the vaccine. So is there any questions before we talk about vaccinations about where we are as far as cases?
None for me.
I do have a follow-up question relative to strategy, but I can wait until after your presentation on the vaccination.
Okay. All right. So vaccine. So where are we with vaccine? So this is our COVID vaccine chart from the state. I put a red line of where we're at. clinical and non-clinical healthcare, such as like Cape Cod Healthcare. For example, my wife just got her second shot today. So, yay. So, whereas healthcare, they're on their way. Long-term care is being addressed now. First responders clinic occurred today. We'll talk about that in a second. And some of the congregate care settings are getting scheduled and getting done as well. So we're at that point in the phases where working our way through, and that's in the December, February. So we're getting through that, I think, a little quicker than February, I would think, before we'd move on to phase 2. So when would I get my vaccine? So again, what the state has asked for the local boards of health is to take care of first responders, which began today. And big shout out to the town of Sandwich, who invited everybody early on to doing the first responders. So of course, why duplicate effort if one's being offered, and they offered it and we've taken it. Our nurse that we've hired for the pandemic, Kathy, was there assisting and giving the shots. It was good for her to see how to handle the vaccine. It's a little bit different. It comes in frozen for a reason. It does break down relatively quickly. A little funny thing about the vaccine, it's the opposite of what James Bond wanted with a martini. You do not shake this, nor do you stir this. Once it thaws, you can break that DNA structure out. So you do have to be very careful in how you handle this. And it's the main reason why it's, one of the main reasons why it's frozen. So it's just, so she got the opportunity today to vaccinate first responders in the Upper Cape and had a good familiarity with the vaccine. So the remaining phase 1 through phase 3. So towns, we're still awaiting more specific details for phase 2 and phase 3 from the state. So we don't have the entire game plan. But we are in preparations to conduct a long duration, because it's, there's a lot of people. So it's going to be a long duration as we work our way through the bullet points on the previous slide. We're looking at a long duration drive-through vaccination clinic. So tonight with the Board of Health meeting, I had them, I gave my attentions to recommending partnering up with Barnstable County Health for vaccine storage and distribution. The freezers, bringing the nurses. They have a bank of a couple hundred nurses, and they have contract in MRC. MRC volunteers of the Medical Reserve Corps. If you want to volunteer, I left that information there. Diana Gamon is the MRC director. Her number's there at 508-375-6641, or you can email her at the county if you want to volunteer. And we've had a lot of people volunteer. And so we would be pulling pulling that in during this long duration drive-through. Now, the complete details aren't set in stone, and we're working our way through it. So to partner up, it would allow, perhaps at the beginning of more regional approach to it, to work our way through. I think a drive-through is good. I think at the beginning, especially when you're dealing. Let me go back a slide. When you get into phase 2, and individuals with 2 comorbidities and over 75 are the high-risk people, and they may not really necessarily want to wait inside a gymnasium for 15 minutes to 30 minutes for that time frame. So I think a drive-through is the best way, but with a drive-through comes the complications of making sure that the nurses are dry and the vaccine's in good shape and things of that nature, and there's proper lighting and things of that. So that's where we're working ourselves through right now. Over the next week or two, I'd be able to give you all the details as it's all being worked out. And so as we work our way through, we've got discrete groups. We'd go to the 75 and older and the 2 comorbidities. Then it would work its way to education, transit, utility, grocery, public health workers, then to 65 and older, and then individuals with 1 comorbidity. And we would take them down as we go. And so I think once you get to phase 3, it gets a lot larger. And I think the avenues to get the shots will be, the vaccine will be more broad as the time progresses, because obviously just one point of place to get it is a little problematic. So as we get into the phases and we learn more, we'll adapt the clinics and the vaccinations accordingly.
Mr. Patterson, are you ready for questions?
Yeah, I just listened to an epidemiologist from the UK today, who basically said that maybe the requirement for a PCR test, which I know you say is the gold standard, as a basis for sort of ending your quarantine and being able to go back to work, is perhaps not the best strategy, because apparently those strands of DNA that the PCR test detects, they persist for long periods after a person is actually infectious. And so what they're suggesting is that actually they call it the ladder flow antigen test. is a better way of finding out when you could actually get a person back into being productive. And I think about the schools right now with staff being out for quarantine periods and not knowing truly when they are no longer infectious. And apparently this antigen test gives you an immediate result. And it tells you whether you have the active virus versus the pieces of DNA strands, which were the indicator that you once were infected. And so I didn't know whether you were aware of this, but I thought it was worth looking at, given the fact that we're still going to be in this for 6 months or longer, and we do have to worry about people being out of productive, occupations, be they in the commercial side or in the government services side.
Yeah, well, right now we don't use a PCR to return. So you don't get out of isolation based on a negative result of the PCR. Otherwise, you will be out of circulation for quite some time. You do shed the viral DNA for quite some time. Early in the pandemic, that's how you would get out of isolation, but that didn't work. So it's a minimum of 10 days with 24-hour symptom resolution. So you're using it based on symptoms. Is it a perfect system? It's what the state, that we get those marching orders from the state. If there's a rapid test that would work better, that would show the exact date at which you're cut off, then great. But right now we're not using a particular test to be released out of isolation. The PCR would just take forever.
Yeah. Delays.
Yeah, so we don't use it. So no one's waiting to get a negative PCR to come back to work. It's based on symptom resolution with a minimum of 10 days.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? I have one. I think I know the answer, but a comorbidity is just a life-threatening condition. Is that right?
Yeah, like diabetes.
Okay.
Diabetes is particularly problematic with COVID. So something like that, yeah. And so, and the other thing too is there's a national system in the states using, it's called PrepMod, where you would register for it, and that's where you would list your comorbidities and so forth. So it'd go through that system, and then it would be vetted through that, and then we'd go from there.
So I have a question for you, Scott. I know Cape Cod Healthcare got all their people vaccinated, and I think most of them have probably had their second shot now. I don't know exactly, but then the nursing homes, I guess, have been handled by CVS and Walgreens independently. Mm-hmm. What about the private practice doctors and nurses? I understand there's some lag and maybe a bit of a lack of coordination on behalf of those people. Is that getting better?
I would totally agree with that. And we haven't gotten a lot of direction from the state. So a lot of these entities have been seeking it out on their own. I know that Cape Cod Healthcare has been helping some, I think, and they have had to call around. Obviously, once our clinic is up and running, you would be able to go back into that and take care of those, right? So, so we wouldn't go. You don't go beyond that. So we wouldn't. People over 75 with 2 comorbidities, we wouldn't jump to 65 and older because you're going too far ahead in the bullet points. Let me go back to, well, you saw that before, but you could go backwards to catch those. So once we have the clinic running, if there's anybody left, they have had a little bit of trouble trying to get, and we've had a lot of calls with not a lot of direction. I've had some places I've sent them, Duffy Health Center, Cape Cod Healthcare, try a few of those, but I haven't gotten as many calls. So I think it has been a little, because it is the bottom of phase 1, right? It does say it in there. And so once we have our clinic up and running, if there's any left, then we'll be able to do that.
Okay. And do you think, what's the date of that expected opening?
I don't have a date yet for you.
Okay.
But I would hope in the next, in not in terms of months, in terms of weeks.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Taylor and
it's a lot of stuff to do. You get there's a lot of part. You have to get the vaccine first off, right? It's we have to do some,
I guess the syringes come with each dose. It's a little package, right?
Yeah. So there's a lot to go on. There's a lot to set up for it. So.
All right, Ms. Taylor.
So yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a comment and a question. Firstly, my comment. I think you've done a yeoman's job, Scott, and I really think we need to commend you for the work that you've done and the hours that you've put in since the very beginning of this. And just to show the board's appreciation, thank you very much for that. And can you just remind me of the time between the first vaccination and the second, please?
Okay, sure. Yeah, first off, and just to comment on the last time, the state's going to tell me when I can do 75. So even if I had a clinic set up today, I couldn't do so as a 75 until the state gave me the get-go. But as far as the date, okay, the Pfizer's 21 days and the Moderna's 28. Pfizer's a little bit difficult to handle. Pfizer's really gone to the hospitals. Moderna's probably what we're going to get to start. And eventually, if you get to the Johnson & Johnson and the other ones, they're single doses and much more stable. They're more conventional style. And then, maybe the back end, it would be nice not to have to do 2 when you're doing the mass vaccinations in phase 3. It'd be much nicer to do 1. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. I've heard good things about the Moderna, so as far as it's a little bit easier to handle.
Okay.
Pfizer's a lot less
Did you have another?
stable.
Yeah, Scott, do you know when each of these cohorts is actually going to know that they're eligible?
Yep. So yeah,
will be contacted, or
all methods possible to my disposal will I notify everybody.
Okay, and then we need to call in, I assume, to a prep mod.
Yeah, so
it's get ourselves scheduled.
Yeah, so it'd be an online registration process, which I can see problematic above the 75 age brackets for some, and we'll have to work ourselves through it. It needs to be a consistent, Scott setting up an Excel spreadsheet to register everybody in Falmouth and then send it to the state for somebody to decipher into us. We want to be able to track who's been vaccinated. So, and so having a national system, I know New York, Jersey, I've heard a lot of other places are working through it. It actually just went live Friday, I believe, because they were working out what they call beta testing. I'm not an IT guy, but they called it beta testing for what that means. But so, yeah, I mean, I need to have a consistent method to register and track. And so the prep mod is the software program that they've come up with. And, I'm sure by the time, you work out the bugs in the smaller category of people. So like you can work out the bugs. So Barnstable County, who's going to be partnering with us, is doing all of the rest of the Cape for first responders. So for most of the rest of the Cape. And so they're working through prep mod. And by the time we get our stuff set up together, there'll be aces on prep mod. And so, which helps with the management, because think about how to schedule, all these people if you're trying to do it manually.
Oh,
right.
Greatly appreciate the complexity.
Yeah, and then trying to get Mr. Patterson back on day 28 because it's plus or minus 4 days, and he didn't show up and he wasted we don't want to do that, right? So prep mod really works it out and makes it a lot easier on our end.
Dementia takes its toll.
I noticed that the healthcare workers have cards that they keep.
You'll get a card.
Keep track of it. Is that going to be the case for everyone?
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah.
Oh, good. So if you want to get into the concert, you're going to have to show your vaccination card, right?
Yeah, post-COVID, post-vaccination, I'm not quite sure how the world will look, but I don't know if everybody's going to carry it like their license or not.
Only if they want to go somewhere. Okay, Mr. Patterson?
Yeah, for everybody's benefit, when your cohort comes up, where are you going to spot that? Where is it going to be posted as to what cohort is now eligible to sign up, and the information on how to do that?
Well, I mean, it's going to come through the state, the news, whatever method. For example, the senior center uses their blast robocall that's going to really help us with the 75 and older group, right? And even the 65 and older group. And I'm going to pull, Peter and Julian, and we'll all put our heads together on the best way to do it. I don't want anybody to fall by the wayside, but there's always,
there's always a townwide.
Yeah, that would work. Although this isn't for school age kids, but it may work to get a hold of the adult.
Right.
Whatever method.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Trust me, I want to get this stuff out to you as quick as I can.
You are. You're doing a great job.
Indeed. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, next we have an interview, vote, and appoint committee member, Steamship Authority Board of Governors, Catherine Wilson. And I don't know if Catherine's with us. I'd be willing to appoint her without even having her show up. But I see she's coming on.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Catherine.
Hello,
How are you tonight?
Hi there. Hi.
Now we see you.
My name is Catherine Wilson. Can you hear me all right?
Yes,
See
it's a
me
little
all
broken
right?
up, but we're getting it.
Okay, good. Yeah, I just got a message. My internet connection is unstable, so.
Yeah, we can
take it.
tell.
So I've been, good, okay. Should I continue on?
Yes, please. The speaker, your voice is okay. Your video is a little bit broken up, but that's okay.
All right. The, let's see, so the select board appointed me almost 2 years ago to fill the remainder of the former representative from Falmouth. And my term has just ended and I've just applied for reappointment to the position. There weren't any specific questions that were in my application. So do you want to give me some guidance as to where you'd like me to, what you'd like me to discuss?
Well,
what's your biggest challenge?
There you go.
What's my biggest challenge?
I should say, what's our biggest challenge?
Well, it is such a fascinating entity. The Steamship Authority is multifaceted. There are so many different aspects to it. You know, there are the obvious ones, like the lifeline to the islands and making safe passage and so on and so forth. It has a huge impact on the town, positive and negative. And the key things that prompted me to apply in the first place were my concerns about the disconnect in terms of communication between Steamship Authority and the village of Woods Hole. And also it seemed that the communication between the island and Falmouth needed some bolstering up. There didn't seem to be a reliable line of communication. So that was, I've been so pleased that the task force and the working group have really gotten underway, and the fact that we've got Mr. Suso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Brown, you know, participating on such a level, I think is hugely important. And the vineyard reps, now that they've gotten involved, I've been really impressed with the range of the depth of the discussion that is going on and candor. And I think some eyes have been opened as to what's going on our side of the water and why we're complaining about the traffic and noise and other impacts that can be remedied, that do deserve some attention.
Really been enjoying my time on the task force and interacting with the vineyard representatives, and I'm learning a lot about their, their basic infrastructure and what it takes to do this kind of long-range planning. So it's been really interesting to me, and I've really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to making some good progress. It's going to take a while, but I think we're really headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, these aren't simple questions, and each of our communities are prompted to really ask some introspective questions like, what are our plans for our community, and what kind of building do we want to have, and where do we see ourselves in 5 years and 10 years? And that takes some time and effort.
And they're not intuitive questions. You don't, they wouldn't, if we weren't raising the issues and asking the questions, it might never come up, because for them it's just a basic, it's like, for us, we just get on the road and go. And for them, they just get on the boat and go. And it's just, just the way it's always been. So these long-range planning questions are a little bit new, but I think well-deserved, and I think actually pretty well received, surprisingly.
Yep, I agree with you. And so we have the challenge of having this really important operation going, which is a large operation, a lot of employees, carries a lot of Falmouth people over to the island for work. A lot of commerce depends on this. People's livelihoods depend on it, but it's all smack dab in a very tiny community. So there are a lot of challenges there. And I think steamship management is learning more as we go on as to how to integrate their planning with what the village and with what Falmouth needs. And so I'm looking forward to keeping on going if you'll have me.
I'm glad to hear that. I see that you've been very responsive to emails and questions from concerned neighbors, and that's an important part of it. And I know Betsy was very responsive as well. And so I'm not saying that that wasn't happening before, but I'm just appreciate the fact that what you've been able to do so far in the first 2 years. So I'm happy to hear you're going to continue.
I'd like,
Betsy gave me a lot of insight and a lot of advice when I first started. So I really appreciated her input at that point.
She did represent us well. I just, we had that one conflict with the conservation issue, and that was a kind of a concern for me. But I certainly appreciate Betsy. She's a great lady. And Mr. Patterson?
Yeah, is there any movement on getting any of the boats to come out of New Bedford? I know there's the whole government dock issue.
Our long-range task force is just now starting to turn our attention to that. Our first few meetings have been more of a get to know you and understand positions. And now this week we are having Mr. Ralph Packer and I think his son or daughter, somebody else is coming along to explain their perspective as a hauler of freight to and from New Bedford, where they still operate now. And most of their work lately has been like transporting modular homes and construction materials and so forth. So we're looking forward to learning a lot from him. At another subsequent meeting, we're going to be inviting Mr. Ed Anthony Washburn, who's the Port Authority Director for the City of New Bedford. And I've been forwarding a lot of stuff that I've been uncovering with my cooperation with the SMART group from Woods Hole about, New Bedford City Port infrastructure planning and so forth. So there's been a lot of research and a lot of reading being done about what the options have been and what they will be in New Bedford. There's a lot of redevelopment along the New Bedford waterfront.
Yeah.
So we have to stay in tune with what the options are and look for our opportunity to get in. I was a little concerned that the wind farm planning and development might kind of usurp any freight planning, but we did receive a sort of a reassurance that it's still certainly a viable option to bring freight out of the North Port. They're going to be expanding and developing it, a huge new area, platform area from which to develop that North Port terminal. It's really expanding as they go along. They're increasing their plans. So it's going to be a lot of opportunity there.
That's terrific. There are several people on the Port Council, and Ed is president of the Port Council. And so some of the board members and Port Council members are very receptive to opening up New Bedford to, and freight and traffic and transportation to and from New Bedford.
Right. And it won't happen overnight. It's a couple of years away at least, but at least we can kind of work toward that. Ms. Taylor, please.
I was just going to move to appoint Catherine Wilson to the Steamship Authority Board of Governors for the 3-year term that is up 12/31/23.
Thank you.
Patterson, second.
Just one point. I think this also means, Catherine, that you will be the chair of the board, right?
That's right. By regular rotation, Falmouth is the chair this year.
Great. Do you think that will tie your hands more because you have to stand back and wait for things to happen, or does that give you any more power?
I don't know. I'll let you know.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, and I'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Mr. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones?
Jones, aye.
And Brown, aye. Thank you, Ms. Wilson, for your, Attorney Wilson, I should say, for your interest in serving. I appreciate it.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
your service.
Do well, everybody.
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Taylor, for moving that. I was talking too long. Vote to accept fiscal year 2022 budget and submit it to the Finance Committee.
So moved.
Taylor, second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Mr. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones?
Jones, aye.
And Brown, aye.
Good luck, Ms. Mullen.
Thank you for
That was
attending.
quick.
Yeah, didn't find
Thank
any
you.
more.
Have a nice evening. Nice to see you all.
Didn't find any more questions. Thank you.
Bye.
Great background information.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, vote to hold remote annual town meeting via Zoom teleconference on January 25th, 2021 to act on the town meeting warrant originally posted for November 16th, 2020 as requested by town moderator. So I understand we're going to make two separate votes. The first being to hold the remote annual town meeting via Zoom teleconference on January 25th, 2021.
So
Is there
moved.
is a
Taylor
motion?
second.
Is there any discussion further?
I just wanted to point out, I know when I tried to Zoom the precinct meeting, I know there's an instruction on there that says you have to set up a Zoom account, but I falsely assumed that like when we enter into our Zoom meetings, that you just simply clicked on a link and it automatically brought you on board. What I didn't realize is that I actually had to have a personal Zoom account. And I'm not sure, and I bring it up because I'm not sure all precinct members realize that you have to have a certain level of Zoom account or you're going to get cut off after 40 minutes to an hour.
That's an excellent point. And
Well, I see Peter Johnson
have a
Stahl is
Zoom
there.
account.
Well, you might not get cut off, but I'll share my experience when I tried to log in. It asked me for not only the Zoom ID number, but then it needed a password.
Yeah.
And there was no password given. So I was scratching my head and I finally just said, maybe they want my password from my Zoom account, and I entered that. And if I had done it the other way, instead of following the link, if I had gone to my Zoom and opened it and entered the number, maybe I would have had a different experience. Mr. Staub, did you want to comment on this?
Sure, thank you. So point well taken, the instructions could have been a bit more clear. So just to clarify the answer to the question, town meeting members, in order to vote and participate as town meeting members, do need to have a Zoom account, and you will be sent a direct link that you can use to access the meeting. You will not need to enter in a meeting ID number. You will need to enter the password for your personal Zoom account. So, and that Zoom account has to be created, attached to the email address that you registered with the town for this town meeting. I know some of us have multiple Zoom accounts, multiple town meeting addresses. So the town meeting members just need to be sure, and we have updated the instructions to be much more clear on this point. And those updated instructions will be sent to all town meeting members and posted on the website. So you do not need any, you don't need a paid account. It doesn't matter what, you just need a free account associated with the right email address that you registered with the town, and you won't get kicked off after 40 minutes. The 40-minute limit is associated with the host of the meeting, not the individuals who enter the meeting.
Thank you.
So the town paid for the upgrade, huh? Okay, so do we have a motion to hold this town meeting by Zoom teleconference?
I think you have a motion and a second on the floor.
Okay, thank you. So I'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Mr. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones?
Jones, aye.
Brown, aye. And the next phase is to approve and act on the town meeting warrant originally posted for November 16th, 2020, as requested by the town moderator. Is there a motion?
So moved to approve the warrant.
Taylor, second.
Okay, and no further discussion. All those in favor by roll call, Ms. Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Mr. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
And Mr. Jones?
Jones, aye.
And Brown, aye.
You might want to take the opportunity to remind people when this next precinct meeting is. Since you have.
Okay, well, we'll do it again. We did that a little earlier, but it's going to be Wednesday, the 13th at 7 p.m. via Zoom conference. So we'll do another practice round. And hopefully we'll
Must
have a little
register in
bit.
advance and you receive the email though.
Have those emails already been sent to town meeting members?
So if you've registered for the precinct meeting, you would have received an initial confirmation. but there will be reminders sent to all registered 24 hours in advance and 1 hour in advance. And those reminders do have a link. And that's for town meeting members, not for folks like myself and Ms. Taylor, who are not town meeting members, but will be participating as panelists. Those will be sent separately.
Okay, so that maybe would be tomorrow morning, because it's Wednesday night, we're gonna have the.
Yep.
Okay,
And non-town meeting members cannot participate in the precinct meetings, is that correct?
Non-town meeting members, if we have advance notice that someone has an article that they wish to speak to, they can be brought on as a panelist and they can respond to questions. But there isn't a public way to, well, actually for the second precinct meeting, I believe we will be posting a Zoom link for the public to view the meeting but not participate.
Mr. Suso, did you have a comment?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to ask, I don't know if Peter has the exhibit, but did you want us to display the two motions for the public that might be watching so that they see the exact text of the two separate motions? I don't know how difficult that is, but I know it was stated verbally, but would you like that exhibit quickly to go on the screen?
Sure.
Ability, if you'd like. Those are, thank you, Tom. Those are the two motions just acted upon by the board in two pieces.
So we really haven't done motion 2 yet.
Well, we had an initial motion with a second, and I thought maybe they were taken out of order. Was the first action for proposed motion number 2, and then 1 followed it?
No, not really.
We did two motions to cover motion 1. We haven't really done the official motion 2 yet.
Well, then it's good we brought this on the screen. We'll need an independent one for motion number 2.
Yep. I'd move to vote to issue a notice to town meeting members and other participants pursuant to section 8C of chapter 92 of the Acts of 2020 that the meeting originally called for November 16th, 2020 will be held by remote participation on January 25th, 2021.
Is there a second?
Taylor, second.
Thank you. All those in favor by roll call, Ms. Taylor,
Taylor, aye.
Mr. Patterson,
Patterson, aye.
and Mr. Jones,
Jones, aye.
and Brown, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I guess we're all set with that item. And next is number 5, report Cape and Vineyard Electric Co-op annual presentation on fiscal year 20.
We have a representative, Liz Argo, who's going to make a presentation.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Hi. I would share my screen if I might.
Yes, please.
I don't have any controls, as you know. Okay, so good evening. I'm Liz Argo, Executive Director. I'm sure you can see my screen, or I'm not sure. Can you?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
We also have Maria Marasco on. She is the CVEC Deputy Director, came on in July. We have a new board president, William Lake. He's out of Aquina. He is a retired attorney. And we most especially want to give a big shout out to your representative to CVEC from Falmouth, Rosemary Dreger Carey. She's, as I know you know, she's a terrific force to have working for all of our common causes.
Yeah, she's a very busy lady.
Cape and Vineyard Electric Cooperative was organized in 2007. We have special legislation that brought us together. We are a governmental nonprofit energy cooperative. We now have 24 participants, and we're not just limited to the Cape anymore. We're kind of stretching and growing off Cape, and we now include the island of Nantucket as well. And in order to reach our mission of renewable energy forwarding, we have engaged in power sales that include net metering credit sales. And those benefits have gone to our towns, making incredible savings on their electricity costs. I know Falmouth is no stranger to any of this. A special hello to Peter Johnson-Straub. We also work in the ISO New England market, which is our system operators. They keep the lights on. We enter all of our projects to help stabilize the grid. And we now have an electrical vehicle initiative run by Maria, the deputy director. So we're helping towns get their EV cars and their charging stations using the state incentive programs. A quick picture of all of our members. So how do we get where we are? We have initiatives that we put together. We bundle projects into requests for proposals, and then we put together the RFP with the contracts, and that's one of the key aspects is we have tried and true contracts for energy sales, having done this now for over 10 years. So we've started with an initial round, which we thought was huge. It was 750 kilowatts, a large installation on Bourne Middle School, a couple installations on a couple of Brewster schools and so on. And we now realize it was rather small, but it was a great way to start. And then we went right into round one, which is 16 megawatts, mostly on capped landfills. And then round two, 12 megawatts, more capped landfills and a lot of schools. Round three, we just last December 2019 came live. There was a hiatus because the state's incentive programs were being reorganized. Round four, we just had 2 projects that have gone live. That includes a lot of solar canopies and storage. We don't see PV going forward anymore without storage. Round 5 is just completed its contracting, 14 megawatts. Round 6, we are collecting projects, and we have spoken to Megan Amsler, and we're hoping to be able to bring forward Falmouth to be included into round 6 if there's an opportunity there. By the end of 2023, just from rounds 4 and 5, not even looking forward to round 6, we'll have about 50 megawatts installed on the Cape and Islands, which is, and off Cape, which is a small power plant.
Yeah,
Can
thank
we
you.
can
That's
we interrupt
impressive.
with a question?
Yeah, I want to ask a question if I could.
Sure.
Is that okay? Thank you.
You said Megan Amsler. I know she's our chair of our energy committee, but have you talked to this school department? Because, you know, roof area wise, they dominate the town's facilities and, you know, really provide a huge opportunity. And they would be the department that would have to interface with anybody that wanted to do a project like that.
And that's exactly where we are. We reached out to Rosemary and Megan, and we gave them a presentation. Actually, this is a page from our presentation that we delivered to them. And we, from what we understand, they're trying to get us an opportunity to present to the Falmouth School Committee.
Great.
So we're on the same page.
Thank you.
Great.
And they did present us a long-range plan over a year ago, which included a lot of the schools. So I know
Good.
they're aware of it.
And I've met with Mr. Murphy at least 3 or 4 times, trying
Great.
to get something going. So hopefully this time we'll connect with the ball, if you will.
Thank you.
Great.
So what has this brought us to? We are the largest cooperative group in New England operating on this governmental nonprofit status. And at the end of FY20, which of course we are now 6 months past, we had saved our participants, which includes school districts and fire districts. It was 16.9 then. Of course, we're well over $17 million that we've now been able to save through our projects. Through net metering credits, which has been a powerful incentive. Thank you to the state. And while we always focus on the dollars saved, it's also very important to note how much greenhouse gas reduction has been affected by the going on 30 now, and soon to be 50 megawatts that CVEC has installed. I mentioned our EV car charging station initiative, and we also do a net metering credit sales with large developers off Cape. We have a piece of, for instance, the wind power project that you see off of Route 25. There are 4 turbines on the bogs there. That's called Future Generation Wind, and CVEC is one of their participants in their sales agreement. So we bought 3 megawatts, which we distribute to various towns here on the Cape and Islands. We have consultancy services. Managing usages against net metering credits has proven to be pretty difficult for town staff, especially now that town staff is being reduced due to COVID. CVEC can provide that, and it actually is much more efficient for us to handle it because we are the group that is handling the net metering credits. So all we need to do is be able to access mass energy insight, and then we can handle both of them together. And it's very efficient to take the best advantage you can of net metering credits. And as we bring batteries forward, we'll also be needing to manage that too. Capacity will have a market dollar amount attached to it, and CVEC can bring that to market and provide additional revenue. We stay close with the regulators and the legislators. We're working with the Senate to secure relief from taxation of municipal solar. And in fact, that climate change bill that we hope will be signed by Governor Baker soon includes language that we brought forward so that towns can opt out of taxing their own municipal solar installations that are on the capped landfills, for instance, should they choose to. We keep a close eye on Eversource. We helped prevent the devaluation of net metering credits that was proposed by Eversource in 2018. And we're a member of the Cape Cod Climate Change Collaborative, which I know you're aware of, with Rosemary Drager Carey being on your energy committee. So in FY20, we're adding a lot of PV and storage. We've already broken ground on a few. We're starting on a battery backup system at DY High School through a grant from the state in $1.5 million. So we're going to be quite expert in resilience, and we are collecting projects for round 6, as we mentioned. So here are the schools that we actually would look at. These are the schools that we've already installed on. So this gives you a picture of how much experience CVEC has in working with school districts and so on. And this is too small for you to see, but what it's telling you is that the average school installations are bringing forward about $50,000 to the towns in a year. This is within 1 year. So going with PV is definitely a smart move. These are the possible Falmouth schools that could benefit from renewables. And this is an older chart. Rosemary was going to send me a more updated one, but I think she probably got diverted into something more pressing. This goes back to 2014. So it's quite ancient, but it shows you the schools that we were looking at back then, the electricity they were burning back then, which I'm sure has gone up, and the possible, the total costs to the town not having these met with any net metering credits or behind the meter power. So this is that $1 million is something we'd like to see disappear for you.
Can I ask a question about?
Well, that's a perfect timing, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. On the schools, on any time you put photovoltaics on roofs, what happens? Because we've had to replace roofs on schools, just like once every 5 years, we're replacing one of the school roofs.
Yeah.
With the PV installation on top of that, how much of an impediment does that create?
It is not desirable. You do not want to put solar installations on top of older roofs. You want to make sure that your roofs are not more than 10 years old. I just put solar on my roof here at home, and I went with a 12-year-old roof. because the solar does protect your roof.
Right.
It prevents the rays from reaching your shingles and so on. But generally, yes, we don't want to know that a roof needs replacement and then put PV on it. So that's part of what CVEC vets as we go around and check out projects, potential projects. That's the first question on our list. Now, if you do put PV on and all of a sudden there's an issue, and lo and behold, you do need to replace your roof, there are, in our contracts, there are the terms in order to deal with that. It will be expensive in the sense that you do have to make the vendor whole for some of the time that the project is down, their project is down, because these are third-party developments. No capital cost to the towns. There's a third party that CVEC finds and vets who will own the projects, and they need to be assured of a certain amount of income per year in order to finance the project. So, but there are workarounds that are in the contracts to allow for repairs to be made. And there is a grace period during which you take your PV off, you do your repairs, but you don't want to leave your PV off for a year, because eventually there needs to be a collection made by the developer.
And hi, this is Maria Marasco. Pleasure to be with you all. I know it's late in the evening, and I'm sure Liz wanted to mention that we are also installing carport canopies, which also provide you with those net metering credits to offset your electricity costs. Liz, you want to expand on that?
Sure. Well, I can go back to the slide. And this, for instance, Nauset Schools is going to be a solar canopy. The middle school will get a solar canopy. Oak Bluffs is on the roof. Sandwich High School will be a solar canopy. Mashpee Schools, we're doing 2 solar canopies. And that's it. So, but yes, solar canopies, roofs is preferable, but if your roof is ancient and you have a good parking lot, you could look at a solar canopy. It is well incentivized by the state.
Right.
Thank you, Maria.
Is there anything else you're going to share with us?
Well, can I ask do you have any contact information? Because I'm the board's representative on our EDIC, and I know they're looking at both at charging stations for electric vehicles. And I saw that was something that Maria kind of monitors and helps. So I'd like to be able to connect you together so that.
That would be great. Maria is on the call, and she is going to be reaching out. Who should she reach out to, Sam?
You could just samuel.patterson@falmouthma.gov.
Perfect.
Thanks.
That's how it works. See, you got that, Maria?
And I'll forward that on to the director, because I know we've been trying to look for grant opportunities, because people can park in certain stations while they're off at work, come back and pick up a charged car.
Yep, that's the plan. So yes, Maria will be a great help to you with that.
Can you?
And I know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The town is supposed to be using more charging stations too. So I don't know, Julian, have you been in contact with Maria?
No, I don't believe Julian has, but
Yeah, we haven't lately, no.
No, but currently there are a number of Massachusetts programs that are available. They will reduce your operating costs of the cost of the equipment up to 60%. And Eversource also has a program, but we have a relationship with Eversource that will get you in the queue, the consequence of getting into the Eversource queue is to eliminate those the installation and the siting costs. So instead of getting into the details, I'll be happy to reach out to both of you and provide you with that background information, and work with you if you choose.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have to say I'm impressed with the fact that you're now including storage along with
I'm just going to ask about the implications of the storage. Of course, it's nice if you have some storage if you want to use it around your property, but are there other reasons why it's so important?
Yeah, it's with the Cape Light Compact is now along with doing their energy efficiency program and being the default power provider on the Cape, they are also going to be running a program that's called Connected Solutions. And that's a program that's part of reaching the state's goals, bringing forward reducing demand. So we're trying to make the grid stabilized, better functioning, less expensive. And the thinking is if we can manage our demand better, you come home everybody comes home in the winter at 6 o'clock, they turn on the TV, they turn on the lights, wash the clothes, run the dishwasher. And meanwhile, the grid is going, oh, we need to build more power plants, more fossil fuel power plants. So if we can manage that, there's a reward for it because it behooves us not to have to build to our biggest point of consumption, but to manage our electricity and keep it smooth. So that's a program that batteries are key to that. As you know, solar is great when it's on, but it's not on at night. So that's giving the grid a true challenge. So with batteries, we can smooth all of that ups and downs into a nice smooth.
That's been Eversource's biggest, rationale for not endorsing better net metering benefits.
And one more question on my part is there any other initiatives other than solar panel installations that you guys are working on?
No, beyond, we don't do, for instance, solar thermal, which would be hot water. We don't do CHP, combined heat and power. We tried to do wind, and I don't think Falmouth nor CVEC want to go there again. We proposed wind projects, frankly, in Harwich and Brewster back in 2010 or 11, I'm going to say. But if it'll give you any, just to know that in Brewster, it came 24 votes short of our erecting wind turbines, much like yours in Brewster.
Interesting.
So, but at this point, we're looking to the offshore solution, wind solution.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I've always kind of wondered.
Also, I shouldn't cut out. We've talked to a few vendors about tidal as well. So we are definitely.
I was just going to ask.
Oh, sorry.
I wonder if we had anybody ever thought about the old canal electric plant being converted to hydroelectric?
Well, in order to, and this is probably more detail than we need to go into, but there is a project at Mass Maritime that is a turbine that's been lowered into the canal. John Miller has been a proponent of that, and I think that it's in testing still. And frankly, CVEC was approached by another company, Literal Power, that is winning they hope to win a bid in Wareham that would include refurbishing an old dam and getting the hydropower from that. Now, and so there are people who are still dabbling and trying to make hydro or current power come forward. So if you're interested, we can connect you to somebody.
All right, very good. Thank you. Okay, does anybody else have any more questions? I just appreciate all the information you've shared. That's been very informative.
Yeah, yes. And I had no idea how many projects you have going on across the Cape. It's impressive.
It's thanks to everybody's hard work, meaning at the town level. And so having somebody like Rosemary now representing you guys at CVEC is really critical, because that's who we are. We are the representatives. We are the towns. And so everybody on the Cape, I think that the CVEC model, a cooperative, energy cooperative that can do so much by relieving the towns of each town trying to do this independently, is definitely the way to go. So one of the plans for CVEC is to spread our wings and help more towns as off Cape and even in Western Massachusetts. So our model is really proving to be something of value. So I agree with you.
It certainly will be. And, we've had a lot of these plans for quite a while and we just need a little push. So I'm looking forward to this. Thank you.
Great.
And sometimes just the right channels to go through, because it's the opportunities might be there, but we don't know about them.
Oh, exactly. That's what we're here for.
Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you. And thanks,
Thank you.
Maria.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next on our list is approved 2021 annual license renewals. We must be getting down to the last couple here. Common victualler license for Molly's Tea Room at 227 Main Street. And inn holder license for Falmouth Inn, 824 Main Street.
I move approval.
Is there a
Patterson,
second?
second.
Thank you. And can we do these together?
Yep.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Yep.
And so all in favor, Ms. Taylor,
Taylor, I.
Mr. Patterson,
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones,
Jones, aye.
and Brown, aye. Thank you. And minutes of meetings. Anybody have any comments for the public session of November 9th, 2020?
Found them to be substantially correct, so I would move to approve and release for public access.
Jones, second.
Okay. All in favor, Ms. Taylor,
Taylor, I.
Mr. Patterson,
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones,
Jones, aye.
and Brown, aye. And then the executive session, December 7th, 2020, and December 21st, 2020.
I found them to be essentially correct, and so I would move to approve and not release for public access.
All right, thank you.
Doing both together?
Unless there's any
Well,
changes or corrections.
No, it would be the same motion for both if you care to join them together.
I would say so, yes. Is there a second then?
Second.
Any more comments or corrections? Okay, very well. All in favor, starting with Ms. Taylor,
Taylor, I.
Mr. Patterson,
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones,
Jones, aye.
and Brown, aye. And are there any reports from select board members?
Not tonight.
I think I've covered mine.
I think I have to. Nothing substantial report on my behalf. Planning board has got their couple of things for their Springtown meeting, the recodification and a couple of adjustments to the bylaws. And this week's coming is just pretty much standard business for them. I don't really have much else to report. Anybody else? I think we're all set. And Mr. Suso, do you have any anything you want to report?
Certainly a couple items, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The annual Town Common lighting display is planned to continue through mid-January, given a number of requests to extend the term of this display as a hopeful beacon during the pandemic. As a reminder, the deadline for closure of the warrant for April town meeting is this Friday, January 15th. We anticipate a limited number of proposed articles by the town, with the emphasis once again on more time-sensitive matters. Presuming that we have a successful virtual town meeting on January 25th, it is highly likely that the April town meeting will be virtual as well, and the board is familiar with our efforts to have that be successful. Also, town hall and town administrative offices will be closed on Monday, January 18th for the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. And given the Monday, January 25th town meeting, the board's next meeting is anticipated to be a short session on January 25th, a bit before town meeting convenes as per past practice, just to handle any administrative or housekeeping items that may arise, particularly related to town meeting. Following this, your next regular meeting, as we noted earlier this evening, will be Monday, February 1st, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
I have a question, if I could, regarding the January 25th meeting. I know it would be a little unusual, but it's unfortunate that our applicant for change of manager and change of liquor license didn't get the word about the mix-up there on the our town council's concerns about their presentation. I wonder if we might squeeze them into the January 25th. It might help them a little bit.
Well,
Would
I
that
would
be
think it'd be
okay?
up to the board. It depends on how long a meeting you want to have and whether we have a significant discussion or any other items come up.
I guess it would just matter whether, I guess it would kind of hinge on whether or not our town council was able to give us a letter that his concerns have been allayed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And of course, there's a 1 week difference between those two. So
Right. Mr. Johnson Stock, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. If I could, I just want to note that there's a pretty good likelihood that our IT staff and myself are going to be scrambling to assist town meeting members with their logins and registration for the town meeting in the 45 minutes leading up to. So, like 6:15 to 6:45, 7 o'clock. If the board really felt it necessary to have a meeting before the town meeting, we might want to consider a 5:30 or a 5 o'clock start, just so that we make sure we have staff resources available to assist town meeting members that may need assistance before the meeting.
I wouldn't normally recommend something like that. It's just, I felt like they were a little bit blindsided tonight and not quite prepared for.
Well, it's something he should know. I mean,
Well, let's not get into that.
Yeah, we shouldn't go too far. I just.
We've already continued it until a specific date and time.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah, I think that's it. Could I just remind everybody that the Martin Luther King No Place for Hate Zoom meeting is coming up on January 18th. I know I just registered. I got an email, but if you haven't registered, I think you need to in order to be included in that Zoom meeting.
It's at noon and it's free.
Good one. Pardon me?
It's at noon and it's free.
It's free.
You have to pay for your own breakfast.
But it doesn't come with a breakfast this time. Okay, thank you for reminding us of that.
I move we adjourn.
Second, Patterson second.
Okay, all those in favor, starting with Ms. Taylor.
Taylor, aye.
Mr. Patterson.
Patterson, aye.
Mr. Jones.
Jones, aye.
And Brown, aye. Well, thank you all.
Good night.
Appreciate it.
Good evening.